you please welcome our guest.
There we go.
Yes,
I'm going to make this a little better for you, so it's not lighting in your eyes.
Oh, nice.
I try to
Good
do
morning,
this
Paul
for you guys,
Reiser.
people. Good morning.
Thank you for taking the time to pop in with us on the podcast broadcast. So right now we're on the podcast side, and in about 2 minutes we're going to be on the broadcast side, going back and forth on air and off. I'm very excited about you coming to town here February 4th at the Rialto Theater, first and foremost.
I'm very excited. I'm still trying to understand what you just said. We'll be on and off. What?
I know. I'm sorry. I do tend to confuse people. So I call this the podcast broadcast, right? So we are on Rock 102.1 on the FM side, but right now, currently, we're just on the stream. And in about minute 25, we're going to be on the FM side as well.
On the radio.
So we are live streaming right now into people's homes, as you're saying.
Yes. Yeah.
I would have dressed up. I would have put on pants. I would have put on pants, to be honest.
No, none of us are wearing pants.
No pants at all.
Yeah.
No, you've got it going. You've got the matching hoodie with beef. It's good to go.
It's hoodie weather. Yes.
I'm going to do this for radio. So radio doesn't have I should have done this before we got speaking. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Good, though.
All right. So, yes, I'm coming to the lovely Rialto Theater on February 4th, which is a Saturday. I don't believe I've been to Tucson performing. If I have, it was a long time ago.
Oh,
it was
good.
It was mainly pioneers and horses and carriages back then when I first showed up.
Oh, well, we have upgraded.
Very tough crowd back then.
Yes, we have upgraded. We added an extra stoplight since the last time you were here. So slowly but surely, you're working our way up. But the Rialto Theater is probably one of the best places in town to perform. It's a beautiful theater, and you'll have a lot of fun there. It's a good.
I only play the best theaters, but I'm glad to hear.
Yeah.
If you said, it's a real dive, I'd have to reconsider.
Well, I mean, it's Tucson nice. I don't know if that.
That sounds great. I have, I took a long time off of not doing stand-up, and I hadn't been on the road. And this year I've been out a bunch, and it's just the most fun for me. And they're all, theaters this size, they're really warm and intimate. And I missed that all the years I wasn't out. I missed seeing actual people, especially now after a pandemic. People are so happy to be out again and actually laughing, and you see people in their seats. It's not on Zoom, as lovely as you three are. It's nice to see live people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask you that. We're speaking with comedian Paul Reiser, who's performing at the Rialto Theater on February 12th. It's
4th.
February 4th. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. But I was going to ask you this. Okay. So this has been a while since you've been doing stand-up. Did you hone your skills again by hitting up a bunch of open mics? Because usually that was the way you would do it back in the 80s when you grew up with that class of comedians. So do you go out, test the jokes, and then
that's the only way to do it. I mean, it's I went back, it was a couple of years ago, I went back to a club here in Los Angeles, and it was funny because the younger comics go, "Oh, what are you doing here on Tuesday night?" They go, "You getting ready for a special?" I went, "No." They go, "You doing a Tonight Show or something?" I went, "No." They go, "Why are you here on a Tuesday?" I said, "Because this is how you do it, And it was funny. The first time I went back up, and I had not really done it for years. And the first time I went up, it felt just like I did when I was 19. The first time I went on stage, and I thought there aren't a lot of things that you can do in your 60s that feel like you did when you were 19. But stand-up is maybe the only one. And in that it was just as fun, it was just as exciting, it was just as nerve-wracking. And it definitely took a while, till you get the muscle back. And I said, it's sort of like if you play basketball and you're pretty good, but you don't play for 10 years, you know how to do it, but the muscles are not firing. You got to re-get. So it's like I would have a couple of jokes, and I'll go, how do I get from this joke to that joke? What was the other piece of it? It's like you have to really reorient yourself. But I've gotten all the kinks out of the system. By the time I get to Tucson, she'll be rising. Oh no, that's Phoenix. Wait a minute.
Same difference.
She might still be sleeping in Tucson. But so it took a while. But I tell people it's really the only way to do it. there's no way to accelerate getting back on your feet in stand-up. You have to just put in the hours on stage. You can't. There's no app that speeds up the process for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's great though. You get that adrenaline and you feel like you're building it up. But what's one thing that never gets rusty? Is your timing still good when you hit the stage after years taking the time off, or you even have to kind of redevelop that?
Yeah. You know, I think the timing about stand-up, it's different than being funny with your friends or being funny on TV. That's one thing. But the muscle of stand-up is, you know, what I love about it is, as I said, it's interactive and you're making 1,000 decisions every minute and it changes every night. Even if the material is the same tomorrow as it was today, the audience is different and you're watching and you're looking at, and so that's the muscle that has to come back. I think my sense of humor has been sort of the same. I was sort of surprised to see that a lot of the stuff I would come up with was sort of in line with the stuff that I've always thought of. You know, people say, "What do you talk about?" And I said, "The truth is, I'm not smart enough to make anything up, so I can only tell you what happened with me." And you know, in my life with my wife, my kids. But the audiences laugh because they're going, "Oh, that sounds like me." And so that's always very comforting to me to realize, oh, it's not just me, huh? We're all going through this together.
Right. Well, you've always been a relatable comic and everything that you've done. And again, going through generations of classes, you started off with that great 80s class of stand-up comedians, going into the 90s with the sitcoms. And then it seems like if you're hitting the road now, you're going to have multiple generations of fans because of your stint on Stranger Things. Oh, by the way, congratulations on Reboot, by the way. I love that show. I love your role on that show.
It's really fun. Yeah, it is totally... the audience has expanded, and it's funny to me that a lot of people just don't know that I ever did stand up, which is understandable because I took a lot of years off. But my friend was saying that their 19-year-old kid said, "Wait a minute, Dr. Owens from Stranger Things, the guy with the white lab coat, he's going to try to be funny." And he went, "He's a comedian. That's what he does." So it's, but it's funny. I can watch as they're coming in. The audience is filing in. I can kind of go, "I'll bet you that's a Mad About You couple. That's a Kaminsky Method fan. That's the boys." You know, but it's fun. You know, everybody leaves having a good time. So that makes me, you know, it's not like I'm tailoring it to anybody. I do. Here's what I do, and everybody seems to be having a great time. So that's good.
Well, I mean, I think that shows the level of your skill as well, because again, you're speaking to a different age groups, large audience, not catered or niche by any means. So what's funny is universally funny at your shows, and young and old alike. We're going to talk about the boys and so much more. We have a bunch of questions in a few minutes here with Paul Reiser. You can see him at the Rialto Theater on February 4th. Live and in person. Only a limited amount of tickets left, so you want to go to rialtotheater.com to get those. Broadcast is live, youtube.com/BFegan with Paul Reiser. Clear. All right. Press a lot of buttons. Boop, boop, boop.
Oh,
and then
it's so impressive. A whole bunch of you.
You like the plugs and everything?
Yeah,
see, I'm just showing my pro skills. You never thought somebody
gotten this down to the bottom, have I?
The light.
It's just ugly hardware you don't need.
Yeah, it's not too bright.
For the late show, this is going to be perfect. There we go.
Nice.
There you go. I want to ask, like, so going to some of these venues again, like one of the things that I find that a lot of the comedians talk about, especially even Jerry Seinfeld will talk about it, how playing some of these colleges that the kids are offended now. Have you accidentally offended anybody and you're just like shocked because it's just a matter of fact joke or something that's a little generic, but nowadays some of the younger folks are a little sensitive?
Well, first, I don't know if any of us play colleges.
That's what he said he wouldn't. He said he kind of doesn't anymore.
I don't know. Maybe it was. No, there's definitely a heightened sensibility, which for the most part is really great. You know, it's like the people now are like, well, we have to stop being so woke. I went, do we know what is, is it bad to be aware and sensitive and like, oh,
right.
Okay. You know, one of the fun things on this show, Reboot, which is a show about a cutesy little TV show being rebooted. So it's not about that show, but it's about how the people who make the show come back. So I played the guy who created the show 25 years ago. And now there's a younger writer who wants to make it socially relevant and politically correct, if you want. And what's fun on the show, we get to have like the writer's room scene where we talk about the script, and my character will keep saying things that are not to be said anymore, and the younger writers will go, no, you can't say that. But what's fun is we get to actually have the conversation about why is Eskimo a bad word? I didn't know. When did Eskimo go bad? You know, and it shouldn't just be about trying to thread the needle and not offending anybody. It should be like, well, why is that bad? Why? What can you say? What can you not say? And there's a lot of comedy to be mined from that. Personally, I mean, I don't like offending people. It's not really my, I don't enjoy making people feel uncomfortable. So I never really skate around anything too dicey. I mean, sometimes I'll be surprised, to answer your question a long way. Sometimes somebody will respond and I'll go, I think you misunderstood, because I don't mean what you think I mean.
What about something that you haven't written, but something you performed that anyone has come back and given you grief over? Like it's your fault that you played a character. I mean, like a show like The Boys is a pretty aggressive show. That's not for everybody.
No, I think it is what my mother-in-law, my wife's mother, who's 87. Anytime I'm on a new show, she goes, well, what's it about? I'll tell her. She goes, but are you a nice guy? I went, it doesn't matter. Because are you a nice doctor on Stranger? Are you a good? I go, I don't have a medical license actually, so it doesn't really matter. No, I don't think people blame. I mean, I do have people come over with a big smile and go, "Oh, I hated you on Aliens." And it's like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But I'll have some, an interviewer will go, "What was it like playing an asshole on Aliens?" I go, well, you say that. I say he was just misunderstood. See, I feel for my characters.
Yeah, I think if you come from the perspective, like if you're playing a villain, I think they say that a true villain is someone who believes that they're right.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, on The Boys, you played the legend, which kind of seemed like it kind of took all these awful stereotypes of that manager or producer of Hollywood. Did you really enjoy getting to kind of play that? And did you maybe take any inspiration from some real life managers or producers? You don't have to name names.
Yeah. Well, when I spoke to the creator, it was sort of based on a couple of real people, but just as inspiration. But it was really funny to me because it was such a type. It was a guy, and I knew a guy like that who was no longer around, but who, those guys who dress as they did 40 years ago, think it's still, or still have the comb over and try to pretend that they're actually 40 years younger. And they'll try to impress people with, women that they slept with 60 years ago. It's like, I don't know how it is.
Right.
A, it's creepy, and B, never
gluttony.
heard of her. So
right.
I think a lot of that stuff was
back in the
added on the set.
Look out.
I don't know if that was in the script, but that was really fun. And I had to keep coming up, well, who would it have been around in the 80s? Who are the actresses? It's like someone said, Kelly LeBrock. I said, perfect. That's,
Spelled her name out was fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Let me ask you.
Thank you. That's funny. Yeah. I was telling somebody, I had never heard of the show. I mean, there's so many great shows out there. And I had not seen The Boys. I didn't even know what it was when they called and they offered me this role. So I asked my very hip 22-year-old son, I said, have you heard of this show, The Boys? They're inviting me on. He said, oh, it's great, and you'll hate it. And I watched it and went, oh, I get it. Yeah, it's great. And it's really over the top.
Yeah.
It's great too because you watched the previous seasons. You didn't even know what you were in store for on the season that you debuted on because they took it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
I mean, Amazon now has standards and practices because of this season. And I'd like to think that you get some credit. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They didn't have standards and practices until the third season of The Boys.
Yes.
All thanks to Paul Reiser.
They call it the Paul Reiser effect. Yes.
We've got to draw a line somewhere. Exactly.
Yeah, you've been blessed to get, offered roles in all these buzzworthy, successful shows. And then even, anchoring, upstarts like Reboot, which I feel like.
Yeah, go figure. It makes no sense to me. But, people, I'm sorry, my phone keeps buzzing. What people don't always believe me when I tell them, it's like those shows are great. And it's, obviously to be on something like Stranger Things, which is a global phenomenon, the
Mhm.
likes of which really rarely happens. But they're not as fun to do like on the day as it is for me to do stand up. And it's like, but stand up, you're seeing, it's 1,000 people. I go, yeah, but it's live and
Yes.
it's human. You're actually talking. And someone said, has stand up. I did an interview and they asked me, has stand up changed? I went, well, subjects have changed and certain, as you say, certain sensibilities have changed, but the act of doing it has not changed, and it's as old as the oldest form of entertainment, storytelling. So you come on
Mhm.
stage and it's just you, and you see actual faces, and they're listening and laughing, and you're laughing together. And I've been doing a thing lately where towards the end of the show, I'll take questions, and audiences will fill out a card and they'll answer questions. And it's always fun because you never know. People always have some really bizarre question that you have to suddenly answer for them. But it's live, it's spontaneous, and it changes, every night. And so I'm really looking forward. So people, as I said, people don't often say, well, why are you doing that? You don't have to do that. I said, no, I don't have to. I just like it. It's the most fun part for me.
Yeah, and I love that you rediscovered your passion and love for stand-up comedy and bringing it back out to the road because you're truly one of the greats, and it's great to see you that. I mean, it's an added pleasure for fans who don't know any of your previous work and are only fans of your acting work to be able to see you perform live and in person and entertain them truly and organically like you do,
No,
which I'm stoked for you. I'm
that's
very excited.
very kind of you. Yeah, it when I took all those years off, it wasn't really intentional. I kind of meant to. I was always planning to get back to stand up, and one thing led to another, and it took me longer than I meant to. But the minute I got back into it, I went, yes, I missed this. I missed doing it. So happy to be out on the road and making people laugh again.
That's great. Let me ask you this quick question, and I know that I'm gonna have to let you go. I'm sure you're booked up, but we were arguing that My Two Dads is when you first popped up on my radar, right? And I loved My Two Dads. And Powers pointed out to me that Two and a Half Men essentially ripped off the whole thing. Who was the showrunner of My Two Dads? Was that Chuck Lorre too, or no?
No, that was a guy named Michael Jacobs who did Charles in Charge and I think Dinosaur, A Boy Meets World, and yeah, that was sort of that's kind of the show that the silly soft show that Reboot is sort of not poking fun of,
Yes.
but that's the type of family show that they are trying to reboot, and it doesn't necessarily work in the
Right.
world today.
Yeah, and is that bring back? Is that one of the things that appealed or drew you to Reboot? Saying like, "Oh, I know this show. I was on this show at one point."
No, that wasn't it. What drew me to the show was, first of all, it's got this unbelievable cast that was already on board. It was Keegan Michael Key
Uh-huh.
and Johnny
Johnny Knoxville.
Knoxville and Judy Greer, Rachel Bloom, and top to bottom funny people. And the creator, the writer, was Steve Levitan, who did Modern Family. So all these top-notch people and a great script, and the role of being like the guy who's protecting, trying to keep it the way it was. I thought, well, that's really funny. You have the young writers trying to make it one thing, and me going, let's just come on, keep it snappy and funny. I said, that's really to play the old guy, old school guy was really appealing.
Yeah, and the family dynamic.
Yeah, it's so lifelike, I mean, being in that world, doing a show about making a TV show, it's like, okay, sometimes my head exploded when they say, well, we're doing the run-through scene. I go, it's a scene about a run-through, but we're not doing a run-through. No, we're doing this. I'm like, okay.
My favorite genre is Hollywood making fun of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like, I love that.
It is good. What's the longest stretch you went without work? Because it seems like you're consistently working, but have you taken time off?
Yeah, when Mad About You was over in '99.
Yeah.
I mean, I basically took off, and then I would do a movie here, or I would write. I was doing a lot of writing, but I was basically, enjoying staying home. I had a new baby, we had a new home, and so I was really enjoying stepping off the treadmill.
Yeah.
And then, so it was periodic things. It was working as much as I wanted to, but somehow it's interesting. About, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago, when I just started dipping my toe back into stand-up, coincidentally, that's when everything else started happening, and I was getting all these other movies and shows. And it's not because we saw him at Chuckles Comedy Club yesterday. It's like it was just sort of coincidental that once I left the house and put myself out there, these things started happening, and I don't know why, but I'm not going to fight it.
Yeah, would
Right.
you consider your career to be hotter than it's ever been? Even peak Mad About You years?
Well, that was a pretty big jump, to go from being a stand-up and occasional movies to being on a big hit show that's in 15 million homes every week,
Right.
or whatever it was. That's a big jump. And the world has changed in that there's so many more platforms. Used to be you're on ABC, NBC, or CBS.
That's it.
That was it. And now, well, people, you're on a show that nobody's heard of the platform. It's on, if it's not Netflix, it's, it could be any number of them. So,
I mean,
yeah, it seems it's been busier, and a lot of these shows that I'm on are very, popular.
yeah.
But, there are things that I've done that I've worked much harder at that don't get seen as much. And sometimes those are the most rewarding things. I did a show that I'm not in, but I wrote and produced called There's Johnny, which is now watchable on Peacock, and another one. And that was a labor of love. It's about the behind the scenes of the Tonight Show, about a kid in 1972 works at Johnny Carson's Tonight Show. It's called There's Johnny.
Nice.
And that was something I'd worked on for years. It's like, 72 people saw it. There was not a lot of people.
Right.
So it's interesting. And then something I can just drop into The Boys, which I'm just an invited guest, but it's a huge worldwide show.
With There's Johnny, is that a movie or is that a series? That's
It's a 7-episode series on Peacock.
And somebody's playing Johnny Carson, and
nobody
everything?
plays Johnny Carson. You just sort of see him in the background. But we used clips that we did it in conjunction with Carson's production company. And so we had use of the library. So we'd find a clip of George Carlin, and so you're seeing the clip of George, and then you see behind the set of us. So it's really about the characters who work on the show, and this innocent kid from the Nebraska farm who drops into Hollywood. If you want to, it's not making fun of Hollywood, but it's really behind the scenes. But it's about a time that was important to me, because when I was 15, watching the Tonight Show, and I don't know how you get on that. But there's George Carlin, there's Steve Martin, there's Rodney Dangerfield, there's all these guys that I worshipped, and so that was a great example of something that wasn't as widely seen, but something I loved doing.
You're piquing my interest. So
Yeah,
how old
that
were
sounds
you?
amazing.
How old were you when you first appeared on the Tonight Show?
It was 1982, so I was 26.
Wow.
Did Johnny invite you over couch after your first appearance?
No, not the first time. Since the first time I just did a stand-up, and I got one of these. I went, okay. And then I didn't do it for a few years. And then in about 86, I started doing it a lot. And he had me back regularly, and I always sitting down. I never did stand up again there. I did everything from the couch. But he was very welcoming and very supportive. And, and that has a currency that those shows don't have anymore. That, especially to your parents, like, oh, you're on Johnny Carson, you must be doing okay.
Right.
It's not the same now to be on Colbert or Seth Meyers or whatever, as great as they are. It's just Johnny was singular in that. Hey, I got to jump off and call another radio show.
Yeah, I didn't want to take up too much time, but yes, I'm sorry if I took up too much time. It was just
great talking to you guys. I appreciate the really great questions.
Yeah, such a pleasure. Thank you so much. Can't wait to see you at the Rialto Theater. So I'll let you pop off, and
all right, we'll see you there. Thanks,
yes,
everyone.
sir.
Bye.
All right, Paul Reiser, everybody. Obviously.